like and subscribe. Serious, what's something someone said that absolutely crushed you? I'm so sad, because I won't be there when you get married, said my granny when she was terminally sick. I contacted a woman I dated when I was 18. She had apparently tried to find me for a long time and gave up. She told me that when we broke up she moved away and found out she was pregnant. She gave birth and raised him with some new man. I never knew she got pregnant. When he was 21 he was at college and got killed in a car wreck. So in one day I found out I had a son and that he died, and he and I never got the chance to meet. It was so devastating. She sent me pictures and he looked a lot like me. How do you mourn a child you never met and did not know you had? I was working in a grocery store and saw someone buying something that I had a manufacturer's coupon for $1 off. This is in a very nice neighborhood and this was an older lady with money. So I say, here you go, $1 off. She looked shocked and said, this is the nicest thing that someone has done for me in years, with sincerity and a hint of heartbreak. I was rendered speechless. I think about her every time I hand a coupon to someone and hope nobody says that to me again. When I was 19, I told my girlfriend at the time that I spent my whole day playing guitar and writing a whole song. I was fairly proud of myself, as I really struggled with finishing things I started, still do. She responded by saying something like, wow, that's a waste of a whole day. Really hurt. A guy friend of mine told my best friend that he would *** me, but only from behind, so he doesn't have to see my face. Still to this day I am terrified of people thinking that I am ugly, and I don't really believe people when they say I am pro vertical bar. Going to a 20-week pregnancy scan. There's no heartbeat. My older sister was suicidal in high school and tried to kill herself more than once. I only learned this in my adulthood, since my family tried to protect me from knowing when I was young. Anyway, she was running away from home one night and I helped her pack and sneak out. After she left, I saw my mom sitting on the living room couch in the dark, drinking wine. My mom asked, where is she? I replied, Sheila's gone. My mom then said, is she dead? That scene and those words still haunt me. I knew nothing about her suicidal tendencies and had never for a second considered her dying. I like the thought of loving you. This was after a 3-year-long relationship with someone that I thought loved me. Lesson learned. Edit. This seemed to have gotten a lot of attention. I'd like to give some insight into what happened after. Once I ended our relationship, they stalked me to the point that I feared for my life. They threatened my landlords, my friends, and some of my family members into trying to locate me. I have never met someone who wanted to control me. I suffered trauma for years. It took a lot to recover to who I am, but it was a lesson that I had to learn. I know better of who to trust and not to. Love is real, and I had the chance to understand the person that I am. That is one thing I do not regret from this toxic relationship. Yeah. I was 15, and my best friend, a neighbor for my entire life, had died in a car crash. Someone called and told me, but I laughed at them, because I had just been to his house a few hours earlier, and he was fine. I told my mom, and she said it was probably nothing, so I went on with my day. Then she came home and there was a knock on the door. She called me into the room, and the look on her face gave it away. All she could muster was yeah. But that was plenty enough to send my world spiraling down around me. It has been almost 6 years without him, and nothing's ever been the same. Rest in peace, my dude. 14-year-old me at my Saturday morning babysitting gig, when brother arrives to tell me our 46-year-old dad never woke up. My grandfather once told me I needed to get my together. He was not angry, he was not being condescending, he actually meant it constructively, and for some reason it has stuck with me long after he has passed, and I would like to think he would be happy with the way I turned out in the end. My Mothra's mental illness was flaring up really badly when I was a kid, and she got super at me over something, and told me she would get me a rope for my 13th birthday, which was a couple of days or a week or so away, so I could get rid of myself, and then the family could be happier. I had not been officially diagnosed yet, but I was already struggling with symptoms of depression, so that was pretty rough. Fatter is usually what I hear when I am having suicidal thoughts. My mum was very sick and was expected to pass away soon at the time. The call I missed at 4 AM was that she was about to go. Found out that I missed a final goodbye after talking to my sister when I woke up. This was 16 years ago now. Was about 30 minutes into my workday when I got a call from my mom. I ignored it, but saw she left a VM. She normally doesn't call me during work, so I check the VM, and she's frantic saying my dad has been in an accident and was taken to a hospital about 15 minutes from where I worked. I immediately start freaking out, and I carpool, so I didn't even have a car to get to the hospital. Thankfully, a coworker offers to drive me, and I meet up with my mom and we're just waiting for any information. They take us to a room, and said the doctor would be with us shortly. At this point, I'm scared but optimistic that he's okay, but I should have known better. There was another family that arrived around the same time as us, and when they got them, they ushered them straight to the room their loved one was. After a few minutes, a doctor comes in and tells us that he's dead, and they suspect it was a heart attack, but won't know officially until they perform an autopsy. Upon hearing the words that my father was dead, my knees just gave out, and I immediately started crying like a baby. It's by far the worst thing I've ever heard, and I feel it's forever burned into my memory. I think having that optimism while waiting made it even worse. It's been 12 years, but I still cry when writing or thinking about it too much. My ex told me that the reason my best friend of 15 plus years wasn't talking to me is because he was too afraid to face me and tell me that they were sleeping together since our breakup and got pregnant. I'm not so sure about the context, but I said to a friend that they don't know me very well. We argued about the reason, and then out of nowhere he hit me with, "You are an open book, but the book is so uninteresting that nobody bothers to read it." Yeah. That must be it. When I was in college, my parents' church partially funded my mission trip to Honduras. The condition was I had to give a slideshow and presentation of photos when I came back. I was nervous af because I hate being the center of attention and speaking in public, but I made it through and thought I did a good job. So after I finished, the minister came up to me and said, "Blah blah blah." I was like, "What?" And he said, "That's what you sounded like up there." I couldn't understand a word. Literally set me back decades in my confidence on speaking in front of other people. Still at age 45 I think about that before I have to do it. I had a teacher say I don't expect much from those who have no future, but I thought you were different. My wife's dog one cold January Saturday morning yelped, then collapsed. After a horrifically up drive from one closed or understaffed vet to the next, I finally got him to one on the outskirts of town. The vet told me, "I'm sorry, it's too late." Haunts me to this day. When my ex-wife miscarried our first child I told my mum, and she told me that it was my fault she lost the baby. Your mum was A brother said, "I can't believe that I actually looked up to you." My wife and I have been struggling to have kids. I did the sperm test. The test said I had an above average sperm count and above average motility. I was giddy about it. It got brought up like a week later, and I was still giddy about it. My wife was in a bad mood and said if my stuff was actually that good she'd be pregnant already. Crushed me. Edit. All of my wife's test results had already come back normal as well. I'd have never been so happy about my own results if we were still waiting on hers. Didn't expect this many comments and this keeps coming up. Sounds like your wife is having a hard time coming to terms that she may be less than fertile. Steel low vertical bar. You never have the right to tear down your partner like that. I usually don't talk about this to anyone because I don't want people to think I'm still hurting from it. But after my heart transplant at age 10, a little while after my parents divorced, told me that my medical issues were too hard for him, so he's giving up his right to see me anymore to work on his family. I was a child dealing with a really traumatic issue already. To hear that from someone I thought really loved me was a mighty shock. So I'm half Slovak by heritage. Was raised by family that essentially lived in a Slovak and Polish enclave in the States for multiple generations. So despite being a third-gen American, I got a lot of knowledge and appreciation for my heritage and traditions. My middle name is Ivan. But, being Slavic, it's pronounced Ivan. In first grade the teacher was going around the room asking us all to share our middle names. Gets to me, and proudly say Ivan. Teacher goes Ivan? That's a girl's name. And starts laughing really hard, and tells me to go home, and ask my parents what my middle name really is. All of my classmates laughed along with her. I suddenly realized that my name wasn't normal, and as a kid who over time struggled to accept himself as gay, I was terrified and ashamed of anything that made me girly in my peers' eyes. I told people that my middle name was Ivan for years because I was so embarrassed and worried about being called girly. Till I got to 9th grade and realized that she's dumb and Slavs are badass. Someone literally said to me, "Do you even exist?" They were a housemate's guest. I'm kinda quiet sometimes. I'll never unhear it. Surgeon told me we couldn't save her. Seems kind of silly in comparison to a lot of things here, but I have always loved movies. Cannot get enough of them. I tend to talk about them a lot. Little facts and trivia, stuff I liked or didn't admit. They excite me, and I feel like movies are a common enough attraction that it is easy to talk to people about them. So I often bring them up with everyone, including family. There was a time I was in the midst of a real rough patch with my family. I had been outed by someone at the church we were attending, just as I was only beginning to come to terms and acceptance of myself being gay, and during a family sit-down/discussion/airing of bull. I brought up feeling very ousted from my family, and also feeling very alone and friendless for many reasons, one of them being that I don't feel like a particularly fun or interesting person. My older brother, who I once adored to no end, said without hesitation, "Well, have you ever thought about shutting up about movies for once in your life, and finding literally anything else to talk about?" It has been 11 years, and to this day I have a hard time discussing my greatest passion with anyone without feeling embarrassed. Someone who I thought was my friend told me, "Can you stop hanging around us? A lot of them don't even like you anyway and it is just annoying dealing with you." Mum called me and said, "Well, I've had some sad news. Cousin took his life." Her voice break during the last part. My dad has had a girlfriend for a long while who is I'm terrible person, and I told my dad about it once, and he told me, "I wish I never had you. I wish you would just live with your mom, so I can live a normal life. You need to know your dad is an asshole." My granddad was dying in the hospital. He took my hand right before I left his room, looked me in the eye, and said, "Least I got to see ya one last time." I have never fought so hard to hold back tears. It got worse though, because he did not actually do vertical bar. His dementia got worse, and I had to spend 2 more years watching my grandfather fade away, while he completely forgot all of us. Live forever. Then you die. Sometimes, live forever. Kicks ya in the balls, watches you cry, then you die. I knew my dad's uncle had certain tendencies that caused my parents to cut him out of our lives. My mom didn't tell me until I was an adult, 12 years after it happened, that he had touched my middle sister and was starting to make moves on my youngest sister. As the big sister I felt like I failed so badly. It wasn't your fault, and it isn't your fault. Your uncle is a type person. After 7 years of a rather turbulent relationship, my ex told me she thought I only ever did the bare minimum. I worked my butt off to make that relationship go forward. I know I didn't always do the right thing, and many times, my approach didn't work. But I made a lot of effort and cared tremendously. I couldn't even talk to her anymore, because I just feel so defeated, and I'd probably cry. A coworker looked at a picture of my running days in college, and asked if that was actually me. I knew I had gotten fat, but it didn't sink until that moment, how bad I looked in my body at this weight. I teach adult edition. A colleague of mine who began working at our school at the same time I did, was chatting with me during a break, when a couple students came by, and said something about what time they should arrive at her house. When they left, I just asked, having a class gathering? In a conversational tone. She replied, laughing a little, yeah. You are not invited. I was appalled, not because she did not invite me to a private get-together with some students whom I did not even know, but because she thought she had to tell me that. Like I would ever have tried to wrangle an invitation to any event that another person was hosting, but had not asked me to attend. I have never been like that in my life, and I would have thought, after knowing her for a couple of years, she would know that too. We're still friends, but she has no idea how awful she made me feel that day. We're still friends, but she has no idea how awful she made me feel that day. You should tell her. The day my dad told me he loved my brothers but not me. I had known it for years, but to hear it, I finally had a snap in my head. I was about 14 at the time. It kind of hurt. He adopted me when I was 4, when he married my mom. They had 2 kids together plus me. That hurt for a long time, but I finally got over it, and moved on with life. I haven't spoken to my dad in years and I'm very happy about it. Last time I saw him, I told him some really bad hurtful things. It was a happy day for me. After my ex, and I had 6, she told me I was the fattest woman she had ever been with. She was the only person to ever see me completely unclothed, and quite possibly the last after that comment. I was going through a pretty rough time in my life a little under a year ago. I moved halfway across the country, US, leaving all of my friends and family, to follow my wife to optometry school. I fell pretty hard. I relied on alcohol too much, and my anger was out of control. She mostly ignored it, and didn't speak up about it. One day she sat me down, and looked me straight in the eyes. I'm not in love with you anymore. I felt like I could have died right there from the shock alone. Fast forward, I'm back home living with my parents, and awaiting divorce to finally go through. My grandmother, who has been sick with motor neuron syndrome, has been bedridden for a couple of months now. Last week she asked me, where is euthanasia legal? I think that at this point it's better to just die. It's already been heartbreaking seeing her get weaker and weaker over the past few months, as before that she was completely healthy. She had beaten breast cancer 5 years prior, and near her 69th birthday she told the family her arm felt weak, but we didn't think it was anything that bad. Push forward 1 year and she can barely move or eat, and she only weighs 30 kgs now. I took off my mask in front of a new coworker, and he blurted out, "Wow, you are way older than I thought you were. You've been visited by the ghost of a very important man. Pay your respects by liking and subscribing, and he'll grant you 3 weeks of good luck.